Hi, it's Mark from Remarkable Speaking. I'm here with Bernie Pawlik, Pawlik Automotive in Vancouver, Vancouver's best auto service experience, and we're talking cars. How you doing, Bernie?
Doing very well today.
So today's victim is a 2006 Toyota Prius premium service. What's the premium service?
So the vehicle was in for maintenance service, and we have a premium maintenance service that we offer for hybrids, which is either an A or B service. This one was here for a B. The B service is the larger service with the full inspection, wheels off, brake inspection, lubricate door locks, hinges, latches, etc. Thorough inspection. But the premium part of it is that we use a fuel system and oil system cleaner in the process. It's a BG kit, 3-part kit that basically helps clean the engine a little more than just changing the oil. So that's our premium hybrid service.
And what's the value? What does that do?
Excellent question. So there's a couple of things. First of all, the actual chemicals, I'll show a picture of things in a minute, but the actual chemicals, the first part is an oil system cleaner, an oil flush. So what that does is it basically softens up carbon deposits that may accumulate on the piston rings. That's kind of the most important part, I think, of the cleaning service. What happens is piston rings, over time, they'll gum up, and they won't be so effective at sealing the cylinders. Oil can escape and burn oil. You start burning oil, it just adds a whole bunch of problems. That, there's more oil going into the exhaust system and catalytic converters. The valves start to gum up. A whole bunch of things happen. So if you can prevent that, that's kind of the important thing. And a lot of hybrids, Toyotas, a lot of modern engines, they use low tension piston rings. They don't have that kind of springiness that an old piston ring had. The reason for that is the lower the tension, the less friction, the engine moves easier, burns less fuel. And that's the whole idea, of course, with a hybrid, is to optimize fuel economy. So there are issues that happen, and that's basically what the kit does. So the first part, of course, is to run the cleaner through the engine for 10 to 20 minutes. And then from there, we drain the oil, change the oil, and then there's an additive that we put in afterwards that kind of helps keep everything clean, and it's an added treatment to the oil. We use good synthetic oils most of the time. Depends on the engine. Some use regular oil, but this just adds a little bit of fortification to the oil. The third part of the kit is a fuel system cleaner, which we add to the gas tank. Helps clean the fuel injectors over time. Let's have a look at some pictures here.
So why would you offer this on a Prius or any other hybrid even? Do they need this kind of stuff? I thought they're part electric.
Yeah, good point. So the engine doesn't run all the time, and that's actually even more critical. When you start in a normal internal combustion engine vehicle, gas or diesel, you start the car, the engine warms up, it's at full operating temperature. With these engines, of course, they switch on and off all the time. And once you switch the engine off, of course, things start to cool down a little bit, and deposits and things can just occur a little more frequently. Of course, these are considered in the design and engineering of the vehicle and done a remarkably good job. But just, doing this kind of service just ensures that it just keeps everything in better shape, keeps that clean. That answers the question.
Sure. In other words, burning dinosaurs is really dirty.
It is dirty. We've done it as cleanly as possible, but it's dirty. So there's a view of our 2006 Prius. This big thing here, which says hybrid synergy drive, is the inverter, and below it is the drive motor unit, which essentially would be a transmission in an internal combustion engine car. And then the internal combustion engine is located over here, where I'm kind of swirling my mouse pointer around. Air filter located here. There's a few things while we go over the hood. The windshield washer fluid here, brake fluid, cooling system. There are 2 cooling systems on these usually. A lot of hybrids use 2, one to do the internal combustion engine, one to do the hybrid system and the battery. You might notice this engine's a little on the dirty side. It's not the prettiest looking engine. This looks to me like leftover rodent poop. There was probably a rodent that made a home under the hood of this vehicle, which they do from time to time. We run into it. Someone's cleaned it off, obviously, but not as nice as it could be. A good engine shampoo with a light pressure washing would probably take that off pretty good. And I did notice under this hood of this vehicle, it's kind of off the frame past the window washer bottle where I'm moving the mouse pointer. I assume the owner had put some dryer sheets, the kind of stuff you put in a clothes dryer, zap strap to prevent rodents from getting up. That's a way to keep them away. So if you do have a rodent issue, you can always try that. As far as our other picture, the only other shot we've got here, this is our BG chemical premium service cleaners. We've been using BG chemicals for a while. They're really good. So these are supposedly formulated for hybrids. I don't like to be cynical, but it says for hybrids. They sell a kit. I don't know whether they actually change the formulation of the chemicals or not. When you put this EPR in, this is the cleaner. It smells the same as the cleaner we use for regular engine oil flushes, but who knows? They may formulate it slightly different for hybrids. But anyways, that's the kit, and I'd say well worth doing.
So is that for maintenance only, or can you bring your poor performing engine back to life, quote unquote.
Yeah. So I'd say this is really a maintenance service. Not only, but the thing about poor performance, it's important to go, what's the cause of it? If the engine's running rough, of course, and it's got a bad spark plug, you're not going to fix anything with this. But if you had an engine that was, say, burning some extra oil, excessive oil consumption, it might be worth doing one or two treatments like this. It's like about $100 is the cost of this chemical, plus a little bit of labor charge to do the service. And with the oil change. But, it's probably worthwhile doing that as opposed to, hey, let's just change the engine. Because, of course, you can imagine that's a very expensive job. And maybe on a 2006 Prius, not worth the money. Even a newer one, the cost of the engines are kind of high. Now, they are really reliable engines. From time to time, they do go bad. But I would say you need to know specifically what the problem is. You could try it, but really this is more of a preventative maintenance service kit. And it's a good thing to do, I'd say every year or maybe two at the most. If you have one of these cars, usually for a Prius, most people, we do a service once a year on it because the engine doesn't get a lot of mileage and they tend to last. But, it depends on how much you drive. So either every service or every second service.
Every second service, then you would do this cleaning.
Yeah.
So every couple of years on a Prius.
Yeah, exactly. Depending on the mileage, it depends on how much you drive. I mean, taxis, they do an awful lot of driving. So you'd probably want to do that maybe every third or fourth service if you had something like a taxi, because it's running warm a lot more often. But, they get a lot of mileage.
So are there any other important engine maintenance things that are important to consider if you have a Prius?
Yeah, the other thing that we recommend, and this would be probably about every 3 to 4 years, is to do a motor vac fuel injection system cleaning. We do these on internal combustion engines, same kind of recommendation about every 3 years. What that does is that really cleans the fuel injectors and really cleans the valves much more intensely than a cleaner that you would pour in the gas tank. And so that, again, kind of keeps the engine in. By removing the carbon deposits from the valves, it kind of keeps the engine in as new shape as you can. And that will do something to clean the top of the combustion chambers as well, but it doesn't really get into the piston rings like an oil-based cleaner. So again, probably every 3 years on that is a good thing to do.
Any other things that are specific to a Prius that need to be looked after, or maybe that are a little different than a regular internal combustion vehicle?
No, I mean, that's really kind of it. I mean, there is fluid in the electric drive motor. I mean, that does need to be changed every once in a while, but it's not under the same pressure and intensity as an automatic transmission and heat wise, but it does need to be changed every few years. Same with the cooling system. Flushes are important, again, every once in a while. But yeah, other than that, the rest of the maintenance on the vehicle is pretty much standard for any internal combustion engine.
And what about the battery system?
Well, the only issue, I mean, for the actual hybrid battery, there's not much you can do to that. I would say, though, if you're planning on parking your Prius for a while, make sure you do start it up every once in a while and drive it just to keep the hybrid battery. And I say every once in a while, like probably monthly. If that battery gets down too low, the vehicle won't run. And we have a way of, it's my word, resuscitating it. If that happens. But Priuses are pretty good. I mean, you can leave them for a while, but it's a good idea to start them. It has a 12-volt battery system that basically powers the car up and does all the sort of other regular stuff. Those do fail fairly frequently. But again, there's not much you can do about it. It gets charged as soon as the vehicle's running. So basically, you just replace it as needed.
And how are Toyota Priuses for reliability?
They're excellent. I think they're really good. I've probably said this before many times. I mean, when they first came out, I thought, what a stupid idea. I mean, it's way too complicated having that electric drive system and all the things that go along with it, and the motor. But they made them very reliable. We service them quite frequently. We do some repairs. I mean, we've done batteries, we've done inverters, we've done all sorts of things on them. But generally, they are very well built, very reliable cars. They cost more money to buy than your internal combustion engine car, but under the right circumstances, they can save you a lot of money on fuel as well. So I think they're a very good car. As far as hybrids go, and any of the Toyotas are really good. The Priuses especially are excellent.
And one thing to remember, though, is that they do need to be maintained. You just don't forget it and drive it for 10 years without changing the oil.
Exactly. That's the important thing. I mean, if you have a pure EV, you can probably actually forget it and drive till some warning light comes on or something happens. But, with a Prius, in any hybrid vehicle, you've got to service it just like an internal combustion engine car. It needs a little less service. And things I was going to mention, I mean, another area, we're diverting off the engine, but things like brake services are something that need to be done. We can talk about that in a different podcast. But yeah, you do need to maintain the car for sure. And being a Toyota, one thing, they do need their oil changed on a regular basis. I've changed many Toyota engines because people don't change the oil for some reason. They think they're a little more reliable than they are. They're not tolerant to bad service.
If you're looking for service for your Prius in Vancouver, the experts to see are Pawlik Automotive. They're trained up in all the electrical systems. They're experts in it. They're trained up in the hybrid systems. They've dealt with lots of this stuff for almost 20 years now.
Yep.
Pawlik Automotive. You can book online at pawlikautomotive.com, or you can call them 604-327-7112 to book your appointment. Thanks, Bernie.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for watching.